Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Welcome. How you doing? Fade to Black. Whew, man, I got to be on my A game tonight. Yeah, Jim Harold is here. Today's Thursday, October 30th, 2025. I need to be the media professional. Yeah, no mistakes. I can't say the word not allowed tonight. Jim Harold is here. Yeah. Let's do this, man. Let's have a good time. Tonight is Halloween Eve. Tomorrow is Halloween. So happy Halloween to everybody. I say this every night on the show. This is my favorite time of the year. And we've had an amazing week this week. Monday night, we had the Leo King here talking about 3-Eye Atlas. And wow. Tuesday night, Brooke Ashley was here. We talked about the history of Halloween. Last night, we had a 3-Eye Atlas special event because it was October 29th. And tonight, our annual Halloween special with Jim Harold. He is here once again this year. Jim and I are friends, but you know, once in a while we chat, but it's just once a year, man. We get all caught up on the family stuff and get all of that out of the way. Very excited. Jim Harold is back with us tonight, and we're going to share some stories and everything else, and you know, try to get scared. And here's the other thing with Jim. And again, I'm just going to be a media professional. Every time he's on the show, after the show is done, something happens in my house. Every single time. And it's like, man, I got to call Jim. I got to tell him what just happened. This is a story for Campfire. We've got, it's just the way that it is. I'm very excited. Jim Harold is here. I am going to jump straight into the show tonight. And I want to do that. Our time is always limited, and we run out of time every time Jim is on the show. We're going to go through some of his scary stories. He is the absolute best with that. True paranormal stories. I've got a few true paranormal stories too. I may share tonight as well. And so we're going to do that tonight. It is the Halloween season. And let's not forget why Jim is here. Jim is here because he's my friend. But he is also a radio professional, a veteran. He understands what it means to be a host, what it means to put out top quality media. He is an absolute pioneer in everything that we do. I have looked up to him for a very, very long time. And if you follow Jim, which most of you do, you know, recently he did a couple of posts, and he doesn't do this often, about where Campfire is right now in the world of not only podcasting, but media in general. It's absolutely incredible. He's got his book series, of course, the Campfire Book Series, and we'll talk about all of that and much more tonight. The one and only Jim Harold is here. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you for the kind words. And but I have to take a little objection. I say plenty, so you can count how many times I say tonight. So thank you, though. That was a very generous introduction.
The word is kryptonite in broadcast, right? And when I was in school, I just did it, right? One of the teachers said, okay, now this is the one thing, if you're going to learn anything, never say the word use another word, but don't say it. And I remember going, man, you just messed me up for the rest of my life. That's not even good advice.
I've got a bad thing about saying, and it just comes in conversationally. It's like, and it's like, stop that. Just pause or something. So we all have our little things that we say. I mean, there are people who are letter perfect, Paul Harvey broadcasting legends and people who never utter a wrong syllable. I am certainly not in that class.
No, neither am I. There is, see, I just did it. Now that it's there, you can't get rid of it. And with golf, okay, there's a trick that you can do. Yeah, there's a trick that you can do with golfers. If you have somebody that you just want to terrorize, maybe you've never beaten and you just want to ruin their game, then you just go up first tee box and go, hey man, just wondering, when you backswing, do you inhale or exhale? That's it. Bet $1,000 before you say those words, because now you've ruined their game, right? That's it. They're
overthinking it. They're focusing on the breath. They're not focusing on the shot.
And that's what, by saying that, the word never say it. You've just ruined it. Why do that? Just why do that? Congratulations though. And okay, I'm gonna do my best Howard Stern. I don't do impressions, but I'm gonna do Howard Stern now. This is what Howard Stern would say right now to you. He would go, so Jim Harold, you've got a media empire that you've built, and now you're hanging out with Mick Jagger. What's that like? And that's really true. Do you feel it? Do you feel the success?
Well, I mean, I think you're overstating it a little bit. We had a really good chart position in the top 100 of all podcasts. Believe it or not, of all podcasts, not some subcategory, all podcasts. I looked up and I saw Mark Maron and I saw Trevor Noah. This is on the Spotify charts for the US. And it started last week. We got up as far as 80. I think today I was 93, but that's of all podcasts. So I'm blown away.
That's insane. I'm blown away.
Now, it probably is it's a Halloween spike. I won't stay there, but hopefully, we'll keep some of those listeners. But I'm just like, 20 years and I'm suddenly an overnight success, Jimmy. I don't know what happened.
Well, see, but that's exactly my point. And I appreciate you saying you're overstating it. I am not. There's a lot of people in this game. Okay. And to be there, congratulations. It's just got to feel pretty good.
Yeah. Even if it's a temporary appearance, it did feel good. I got plenty of screenshots. Yeah, I got plenty of screenshots. I'm like, okay, where am I at today? And then people say, well, you shouldn't care about that. But come on, we're professionals. We want to do well. And that's like, you win an award or you rank high on the charts. It's beyond, ad money or anything. It's like a sense of accomplishment. Like, wow, I did something. All the big networks, Wondery and all these huge networks, and just Jim Harold there. And, and you've had the same success. So you know what that's like when you appear in those kind of places with those kind of people. It's like, wow, I did that. So yeah, I took a moment to say, yeah, good job. Now let's get back and keep doing more of that so we can even do better.
Well, here's the cool part. One day your wife is going to be speaking to your grandkids and go, he was number 85 on Spotify once. Your grandfather, and yeah, that's pretty incredible. It's Halloween, and I want to get the stories flying tonight, and we always have such a good time with this. And this is what I thought. I thought I'd change it up a little bit.
Okay,
I'm going to share with you a true campfire story, my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to kick it off with there, and I want to see where your brain goes after that. This is a 100% true story. I've told it a few times on the air, and I've even had maybe one or two people that were with me on this particular night on the show. And to do a little more setup, last year I went back to Indianapolis. You and I were just talking about Indy a few minutes ago. And I went back to Indy, and we had a get together of all of our, high school friends at a friend of mine's house, Kurt's house. And this story comes up again. And there was like 3 or 4 of us out of the 5 that were there for this. We were all there that night last year. And the story, well, the version of it that I'm going to present pretty much is what everybody's in agreement of. Okay, so this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little spot off of these train tracks and a dirt road out in the country in a cornfield, and that you could only access on this dirt road. And but we could pull back there as kids do with your parents' car and park behind the trees where we could drink. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And we called it the electric company because in front of us there was a field about the size of a football field, and grass, surrounded by cornfields all the way around, but with these transformers, right? And that sat in front of us behind this chain link fence. So we called it the electric company. And so we would go and we back the cars up and sit and drink and do the things that kids do. So we're there, and I'm sitting behind the steering wheel. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm driving, and I've got one person in front, 3 in the back seat. And we're smoking pot, drinking beer, and this fog rolls in as we're sitting there. And so the chain link fence and the field and the cornfield, all of that is gone now. And the car is surrounded by this thick fog. You could only see to the hood of the car. Okay? This thick fog.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really paying any attention to it, but it's probably midnight or so. And then suddenly, out of the fog in front of us comes this figure in black. And he comes out of the fog, and he had a hood on. I couldn't see his face. And we're in the middle of the country, man. There's nothing around us.
Right.
We're in a cornfield. Where's it?
Right.
And we all freak. I remember grabbing the steering wheel like, oh crap. And he walks right up to my window, and and I can't see his face. I can only see the hood, and he's in black, and he's looking down at me, and everybody is screaming, right? It's like pandemonium. And I rolled down the window a crack about that far. I roll it down, and he leans into the window, and he says, "Have you seen my dog?"
What in the world?
And I roll up the window, and everybody is screaming, and he's just standing there.
Yeah, like his dog's like Cujo.
Yeah. What did he say? I said, "Have we seen his dog?" We're screaming. He turns and walks back into the fog and disappears. The next
Time traveler?
The next night we were back. Now we spent a lot of, this is, our neighborhood. This is it, right?
Your stomping grounds.
Yeah, we know where we're at. We went back the next night and looking around, and there's no houses for miles, right? There's nothing there. There's nothing but cornfields. And the direction that he came from the east, from where the hood of our car for the next 10 miles is cornfields. It's cornfield. There's nothing there, man. There's nothing. What the heck? Yeah. Have you seen the dog?
Do you think it was a time traveler of some sort? Maybe from the past looking for his dog?
100% ghost. 100% spirit, shadow being. If he would have had a scythe, it would have been a different story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with red eyes. Yeah.
But he had that look, he had a hood on. And this was 1982. It was, man, scariest thing ever. Scariest thing ever. And all of us last year when we got together. and we were telling the story, the wives that were there, that may have heard this story or whatever, but had never heard it directly like this. And we're all talking, they were just all saying the same thing. What? And yeah, and I'm telling you, even as adults at the age of 60, it was a scary, scary moment. Yeah, something that could have gone in any direction. But yeah.
Yeah. So, it kind of, if you want me to share a story here, it actually ties in really well with one of the top stories I was going to tell you tonight about a young person experiencing something they shouldn't have experienced. Aubrey just called in maybe literally 3 weeks ago on the Campfire. And she's probably in her mid 20s now, late 20s. And she was attending the University of Pittsburgh 2019. So anyway, it's an urban campus, right? So she parked her car. There's not much parking. So she parked a little ways from the campus by some hospitals. So anyway, it was daytime in the fall and she's walking back to her car. She had her AirPods popped in, listening to her tunes. A regular afternoon. There were people. There's nothing sinister or weird about it. So then on the opposite side of the street, there's a bus stop and there's a woman there with a black jacket on. She said it might have been a leather jacket, and she was an attractive woman. She was kind of smiling and like intently staring at Aubrey. And she had this striking, vivid red hair. It was so red that it gleamed in the sunlight. Now, she appeared normal and attractive. She just stood there looking at Aubrey through the crowd with this smile. Aubrey didn't think much of it. She glanced away, continued walking towards the crosswalk. And when she looked again moments later, the woman had somehow moved to those trees right to the bus stop corner, now much closer, almost an impossible distance. She would have to have been a sprinter to cover that. And all of a sudden, this woman's right next to her. And there's people around, but nobody else seems to notice her. Now, at this street corner, this woman's there, and she's not really smiling this time in a friendly way. She bares her teeth at Aubrey. It's this strange, fixed, menacing smile. She kept staring directly at Aubrey. Now, Aubrey thought, look, it's a metropolitan area. It's a city. Let's face it. There's some disturbed people in these places. This is just some weird lady and whatever. So as she was walking down the hill towards this service lot, she was looking down at the road to avoid potholes. And she looked up, and guess who was standing directly in front of her in the middle of the road, inches away? The red-haired woman. Aubrey nearly runs into her, stops short, tries to sidestep her, but the woman's face had completely transformed. Her mouth had stretched unnaturally wide, almost up to her eyes, showing way too many teeth crowded in her mouth at odd and weird angles. And the smile went all the way up, if you're watching on video, up almost to her eyes. Her eyes were sunken. They had a grayish film over pale green irises. It was kind of like a Snapchat filter or something. So anyway, this grin, it looked inhuman, something you'd expect from a Halloween mask, but it was real. And Aubrey said she had this incredible sense of fear and dread, cold sweat, unlike anything that she'd ever experienced, pure dread. So she quickly sidestepped this woman. She, not looking back, she hurries to her car, terrified she'd see her again. She backed out of the car lot, started to drive up this steep exit road, and guess who was standing at the top of the hill in front of her, blocking her path? The woman again. The woman's face looked normal, but angry, and it was glaring at Aubrey from beneath her brows. Now, I loved what Aubrey said, and she said so much better than I can say it here, but she basically said, well, I hope she gets out of the way, because she was gunning her car. She drove straight towards her, her hands tight on the wheel, and she kept looking at the woman's chest, not her face, because she couldn't bear to look at her face. Woman stepped aside at the last moment, raised one hand in anger, like she was trying to grab her door, and then Aubrey sped away. Aubrey said she got on the freeway. As soon as she could, she pulled over. She started crying. She was sobbing. She was terrified. She calls her boyfriend, and he said, it's just some weird person in the city. But Aubrey says it wasn't human, but she doesn't know what it was. Now, what she does say is that she's never had a paranormal experience in her life before this and never had a paranormal experience after this. But this happened, and she has no idea what this woman was, what she represented, or anything. So I don't know. It's kind of like a little bit like your story.
The hair on my arms, right? That's great. I had that happen to me with a woman at the DMV. That's another story. But here's the thing. I love the part of that. Let me ask you this. Do you drive your car through it? I think I do. I think that's the right reaction. Gun it.
I think it's the right reaction. I think I might be too conscientious, but I think that's the right reaction. I could see myself say, "Oh, I might get sued," but I mean, maybe at that time, because it's fight or flight, right? I don't blame her a bit, and the way she said it. And the thing was about Aubrey, she's a young lady, tells a very good story. This was on 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I believed her. I believed her 110%. And she really had the conviction of what she was saying. And the way she said that, she's like, well, I hope you get out of the way. I love the way she said that, because you could tell, don't mess with Aubrey or, you'll get the horns.
It didn't follow her home. She made it home safe.
No, she made it home safe. It was interesting a couple of days ago, and I've got to look into this. I think it was on YouTube or somewhere. A commenter said there's a Japanese lore like this of a woman with a very kind of unnatural smile. And I forget what it's called, and I need to research it and find out what it is. Like, this is a thing, like what La Llorona is in the Hispanic culture, or black-eyed kids are in our culture. This is a thing, apparently, in the Japanese culture. So I've got to research more into that. But again, I think our reality is so much more bizarre and strange than we give it credit for. So who am I to say that Aubrey didn't see something like that? Maybe it was from another dimension, another time, another parallel universe. I don't know. Maybe it was a demon. So many possibilities, but I think it was something.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Black Dahlia. Remember her
Yeah,
face was cut to make her smile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. I got another campfire. This is true story.
Excellent.
True story. Let's trade. This is as far as I'm going to go. I'm not as good at storytelling as Jim Harold, but I'm going to do my best. It's like getting on stage with, Eddie Van Halen. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, you're just going to hang. You're just going to hang. You're just going to do what you can. And Eddie would say, "Oh, you're doing fine." And that's what Jim Harold's going to say. "Church, you're doing fine." So, 1988, I'm at a nightclub and I'm meeting some friends. I'm throwing a party at a nightclub, and I'm meeting some friends and my girlfriend at her house, which is a back house in the heart of Hollywood. Heart of across the street from Scientology on Franklin. If you know that area, that is right there. It's across from the Hollywood Bowl. And she has a back house. So I drive back. It's, probably 2:30 in the morning. Club closes at 2. We're all meeting at her place. And I get there and I am first. The house in front, nobody lived in. Okay. But she lived in the back house. So I pull into the back where the garage is, and the house is off to my left. And I'm waiting for everybody to pull up behind me. I'm sitting in my car, and I just glance over at the house, and it had a front porch and a big picture window, Jim, like, I don't know, 8 foot by 4, just a big picture window in the living room right there. And I glance over at the house, just minding maybe the radio's playing, whatever. And I see somebody pull back the curtains and look at me. And I went, "Oh, I guess her roommate's home." And then I get mad. They know I'm here. Why are the lights off? Why didn't you come out? Why didn't you, and so I was a little bit angry that I was sitting outside for 10 minutes and so I get up and I go to the front door and I wait for the front door to open. They look out, they see me sitting in my car, right? It's me. And I'm standing, nobody comes to the door. So then I knock. Nobody answers. And now I'm pissed. And I wait for a few more minutes and I go back to my car and I sit in my car. Now I'm burning up, right? I'm angry. Man.
Sure.
Finally, 2 cars pull up behind me. And one is my girlfriend, Kira. And behind her is her roommate with her boyfriend, Chris. They get out and I look and it's her roommate who I thought was the one that looked through the window. Right. and they go, what's going on? Because somebody's in the house. What? And Chris, big dude, he's like, what? I said, man, somebody looked out at me from the front window. And I went up and knocked on the door. Nobody answered. So now we're all ready. We're all ready to go and, storm in. It's a back house, right? It's like 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen. Small. Nobody there. Nobody. We went through the whole house. The back door's locked. There's nothing in there. I've got everybody freaked out. I'm freaked out. And I go back up, Jim, I go back up to the curtain and I pulled it back and looked at my car, just like what I saw. And I just kind of did this a couple of times and went, well, what was that? The next day, okay, the landlord comes over and we're all there. And the landlord then tells us that he can't rent the front house out because his son committed suicide there a year before by lighting himself on fire in the living room. Right? And I went and I looked through the back door as he's telling the story, and I just look into the house and I just backed out. And I think that was like the last time I was there. I think everybody moved out.
That's amazing. We've had stories of people who were in cars and people would look out and look in the car and they would see more people than were actually in the car, that kind of thing. But since we're doing personal stories, if we have time before a break, I do have a personal family story, which is one of my favorite stories. I may have told it to you before, but it's so good. And it so much shapes, I think, the reason that I do what I do, that I'd love to share it with you.
Yeah, go.
So this is my dad and my mom. You're going back to about 1970. Jim Harold was a baby then, and they went to visit Grandmammy and Grandpappy in West Virginia, where they were from. I grew up in Ohio, born and raised, but they were both from West Virginia. And they dropped little Jimmy off to Grandma to watch so they could drive out into a secluded area. Now, Jimmy, I don't want to know why they were driving out to a secluded area. That's their business.
Innocent enough.
Yes. In the 1968 Buick LeSabre. So a nice big land yacht, that big engine. But anyway, they drive out and it's like a mile out of dirt road. And these rural areas, they are dark. They are pitch black. There's no street lights. There's no light pollution. There's nothing like that. So anyway, they're sitting there contemplating the mysteries of the universe, I suppose. And my dad said, and my dad's still with us, just turned 90 years old. God bless him. My mom unfortunately passed a number of years ago. But anyway, my dad and my mom always said, and I heard this story probably first time when I was like 4 or 5 years old, as long as I can remember, the whole sky lit up. And this was for a sustained period of time. And my dad said, and my mom said, they agreed except for one little part about the whole story, said that it was so illuminating that you could read, those big speedometers they used to have on the old cars, and an analog clock, that never kept good time.
I miss those so much.
Those cars were so cool. They have personality. Yeah. But anyway, the point is that, it was just like, So anyway, then my dad said he turns to his left. Now, this is the part my mom did not see. And he said a man with a welding mask was standing there. That's the way he put it. Now, I got to remember, these are salt of the earth people. My dad was a steel worker for 35 years. My mom was what they used to call a homemaker. Now you call stay-at-home mom. So these were not people with pyramids under their beds. They weren't getting in touch with the oneness of the universe. Very kind of feet on the ground people. So anyway, he turns and there's a man with a welding mask. That's what he called him, and said the man put his hand out. Then my mom said they turned and there was a hill with a bank. And then in her words, I saw a bunch of birds, the biggest birds I ever seen in my life. And he said they had these huge wingspans, these birds. And at that time, they decided to get the hell out of Dodge. So my dad goes out fully expecting to see something in the news about some kind of explosion or something with the like. They're not thinking, X-Files, there wasn't even the X-Files back then, but you get the idea. They weren't thinking anything like that. And they left and they never heard another thing about it again. And, I've heard that. And there's one other family ghost story that I've heard my whole life.
Right, let me comment.
Yeah. Please do.
The setup for my story and the setup for your story are similar.
Yeah.
Out in the country, right?
Yeah.
Dirt road. I got a guy in a black hood. You got, your
a man in a welding mask, whatever.
Mask. What does that, And so
maybe that's the way, but that was his frame of reference, right? Right. Was it a man actually in a welding mask? Was he in a spacesuit? Was he an ET? Was
it
I don't know.
Was it Friday the 13th? Was it Michael Myers?
Was there missing time? And I'll tell you another thing that occurred to me. Right. You've probably interviewed Mike Cleland before, the Messengers, about the owls.
Sure.
And he's always interesting. And I said, could this been some kind of screen memory? Because he was describing some story, and as it was clicking with me. And I'm like, could those, because he always talks about the owls being scream memories. Could these birds have been scream? Because it's kind of an ET story. It's kind of a cryptid story. It's one of these high strangeness kind of things. Not too long from the time of the Silver Bridge, maybe 3 years, but it was a different part of West Virginia. It was a more northern part up towards Maryland. So different part of the state. But, West Virginia was once known as wild, wonderful West Virginia. A lot of people say weird, wonderful West Virginia, though, because there's so many spooky stories that emanate from there. So I don't know what they experienced, but I fully believe that they experienced it. And there's another family story I could share later, maybe. But the point being, I think that set the stage for me because the story never changed. And my mom was not into the paranormal at all. My dad would watch things like In Search of and Unsolved Mysteries and stuff. But again, just regular folks.
The veil. I think that's where I'm coming closer to in my thinking on all of this, Jim. And I know that you and I have talked about this so many times over the years, but what is it? What is the phenomenon? What is going on here? And we all think I'm getting closer with my feet on the ground, thinking that just maybe two worlds or many versions, we're all existing at the same place. So I guess the best example, and we're seeing a bleed through of that. The best example would be here you and I are doing this, I'm in my studio, you're in your studio. But maybe right now we're doing the show, but I've got a friend standing here, right? There's somebody here. So, and then momentarily the frequencies or whatever allows me now to see that version of the world.
Yes.
And somebody is standing here. I think it's a ghost. Right?
And they probably think you're a ghost.
The other right? And I'm kind of physics says that this stuff is the way it works, right? The multiverse and multi-world theory and dimensions. I'm just there's too many ghost sightings. There's too many vanishing. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you another alternative world story. It was a Sunday. I'm 20 years old, 19 years old. I wasn't old enough to drink, but I had my own apartment. I had moved out of my parents' house and in Indianapolis. And so on the Sunday, and I did this on a lot of Sundays, I would gas up my car and just go for a drive. I still do it to this day, right? My days off, just fill up, drive, and then half a tank, turn around and come back and see what I discover. And I was out doing this on this Sunday, and I'm coming back from driving out east. I probably went 100 miles, 150 miles east and turned around, and I'm coming back. And it's in the middle of the day. It's probably 1 p.m. And I'm in the neighborhood where I grew up. And on this street, which was Washington Boulevard, US 40, and I turn at the local Dairy Queen that I know well. And out here in the country, this is the same street that the electric company's on, but the electric company's like 5 miles away. And I turn, and I'm heading into my parents' neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm driving through this clump of trees, I pass this for rent sign. And so that catches my eye in the trees. And I look, and it's a white house with small white house with an in-ground swimming pool in the front yard. And I blow past it. I went, what? For rent? It's summer, in-ground pool. And I whip my car around. And I go back, I park my car. Jim, as I live and breathe, I walk into the front yard. I walk past the for sale sign. And I look at the in-ground pool. And then I look to my left, and on the other side of the yard is a chain link fence, and there is a small family plot of gravestones in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see them. There's like 5 or 6. And that kind of freaked me out for a second. But I look at the in-ground pool. I look at the gravestones.
I get over the gravestones.
Yeah. In-ground pool trumps gravestones, right? So I go up, and I'm looking in the window. And I see this little living room, and I see a fireplace, and then it's all small, like a kitchen area and another door. I went, oh man, let's go get my buddies. This is it. I'm gonna rent this house. So I go back and I jump in my car. I go back and I pick up 2 of my friends, Kurt and Jim, and maybe even a third. And I'm telling them, man, in-ground pool, front yard. Where is it, dude? It's down the street from Dairy Queen. What are you talking, dude? Come on, man. You're not going to believe. So we all drive back. The house is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. And they were like, church. I was like, no. It's here. And I go back to Dairy Queen. I turn back around, and we're coming back. And I'm like, what's going on? There's only 2 streets out there. 2. That's it. There's nothing else out there. And I zigzag, and I went back, and I got to tell you, even as an adult, I've gone to Google Earth and looked up and down. There's only 2 streets out there off of Washington Boulevard. And it's like County Line Road and German Church Road or something. And nothing. I have been back as an adult and have driven up and down those streets. I was looking for empty lots. I was looking for, maybe they tore the house down. Remnants of an in-ground pool. Looking for the gravestones. There was a chain link fence in the yard, right? That was it. Nothing. House disappeared.
It reminds me, because I've heard a lot of not exactly the same story, but very, very similar. And that gets into the idea of alternate realities and time slips. The story it reminds me of is there was a woman in New England, and this is in the 80s. So it's pre cell phones and all that stuff. So she went to night school, at this college about an hour and away, and it's January and it's cold, and she's driving on the freeway and her car breaks down. It's like, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. It's cold. She pulls over to the side. She's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm stuck here. I've got no way to communicate. I can't walk or whatever. And she looks down, and luckily there was like a 2-lane road running parallel, and there was this gas station, and it was open. And she said, thank God I'm saved. And she wasn't really dressed for it, but she said, I'm not going to just sit here. I'm going to climb down this embankment and go over there and get some help. So she walks down the embankment, and she goes in, and I think the time was like 5 to 8 or something. And she's talking to the attendant, and she's telling him the situation. I need some help. And he's like, well, I can't really help you much, ma'am. It's 5 to 8. We're about ready to close. He said, but the owner lives here, and he might be able to help you. He lives on a property right adjoining this. All of a sudden, the guy, he doesn't like spontaneous. It's not like Samantha and Bewitched. I mean, he doesn't go blink, but he just kind of shows up. She didn't see him walk in. He just kind of shows up. He tells her situation. He's like, of course, I'll take a look at it. And he goes up on the road and he looks at it and he said, well, I can't fix it tonight, but what I can do is give you a tow. And she said, oh, thank you so much. He says, well, where do you go to your garage? And she tells him, and he takes her there, and he hasn't even asked for any money. And she asks him, well, what do I owe you? And he says, well, $20 or whatever it was, it was like extremely fair. And he said, you got to get home. I'll give you a ride home. And she's like, oh, thank you. And then she realized she doesn't have any cash, so she's got to go inside when she gets at her house to get a check to pay the guy. And she goes and gets check, comes back, and the guy goes, before she goes, he says, tell your parents not to worry about a thing. Everything's going to be fine, which that didn't really make much sense to her. But anyway, she gets checks, pays him, says his goodbyes, and she's safe. The car is in the shop. She's at home. Everything's cool. So a couple days later, they're going to town in same direction, go shopping, and they usually stay on the expressway. But she said, get off at this exit. I want to show you where this older guy, kind of very fatherly kind of guy, I want to show you where this guy came from, because he's probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. He went out of his way for me. He didn't have to do it. They go down, and sure enough, the service station is there. But it looks like it's been boarded up for about 15 years. Don't know what that means. What does that mean? That's just like your disappearing house.
I mean, at that point, what do you do? First off, you pee a little bit. That's okay, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But what do you do? What do you do? Do you run? Do you think about it? Do you investigate?
I think they just drove past. Well, that's the thing I've noticed by a lot of people who have these experiences. You just go on with your life because you really have no choice. But it's something, I mean, this was a story from 30, 40 years ago. So it sticks with you your whole life. And like your stories have stuck with you your whole life.
Right. Okay, I don't want to stretch this neck. I'm gonna share. This reminds me of another story. I like doing it. We've never done it this way. But I took pictures of this and I posted it online. I was out in the desert riding my Harley maybe a year ago, and I'm going up to a little town called Wrightwood. It's a pretty cool little hippie community, skiing in the mountains. And although I live in the desert, but the mountains are right there, and so you can go from the Mojave Desert up into the mountains instantly. A couple of minutes, you're at altitude. It's amazing. So I'm up there taking pictures, and there was just a fire up there. And so I was I parked my Harley. I'm way up high. So the Mojave Desert is below me. It's majestic. It's just beautiful, right? And I'm out there taking pictures of the fire line because you could see the burnt trees and then where the fire stopped, right? And then everything was so pretty dramatic photography, to have the opportunity to see that. So I go up this. I'm not very far from my from the road, from where I parked my bike, maybe 20 yards over a couple of things. And I come over this ridge and I look, Jim, a grave with a 4-foot tall cross made out of big tall cross. And the grave, and I just stopped and went, what? It's just in the middle of nowhere, man. There's nothing. This is the mountain desert. But the grave had rocks, and the grave was pretty big. It was like 4 feet by maybe 8 or 10 feet. And then a perfect square of rocks with this gravestone. I was like, what? There's no name, right? Nothing. And it's in the middle of the desert. So I take a bunch of pictures and I come back and I post it. And okay, that was a year ago. I have not been able to find this grave.
Huh.
I've been back. I know, and I'm so freaked out. Now, I don't want, like I said, I don't want to turn this into something that it's not, right? I could very easily be walking a few degrees in the wrong direction and just walk past it. But I have looked probably a half a dozen times. I've stopped. I know I've walked over and it's gone, man. I can't find it. I can't find it. Time slip. I don't know. What's the purpose of it? I don't know. Why was I meant to find it at that moment and see it? I don't know. You can see the pictures in my social media. It's pretty substantial. It's not small. It's not like a little, pet cemetery thing. It was big. Can't find it.
Well, coincidentally, because I was going through some stories, and I'm like, well, what stories am I going to talk to Jimmy about tonight? And I found one that's a few years old, but I thought it was kind of a neat story, neat little ghost story, not too elaborate, but it has to do with a graveyard. So anyway, this caller, her name was Alana, right? And her husband was into genealogy, so he was looking up his grandparents, great-grandparents, generations back, and found this one old cemetery where he had multiple great-grandparents buried and things. So these graves weren't kept up. So they both went to this graveyard where his great-grandparents were. The husband cleaned up the grave, cleared them off, took care of the grass and everything so he could do some stone rubbings. Now, during this whole process, Alana kept hearing someone saying, "Thank you. Thank you." And she was wondering if it was her husband's great grandparents. So anyway, their car is parked within eyeshot of these graves. So they go back to the car because he's gotten his rubbings. He cleaned up the graves. Alana keeps hearing "thank you." They get into the car. It won't start. And Alana turns and she looks out the window. And she says she saw her husband's grandparents standing by their grave, waving bye. She rolled down the window. She waved back. The grandparents disappeared, and then the car started.
That's not only is that true, I would like to experience something like that. What is it about the addiction to fear? Is it the adrenaline? You get it once and now you want to get that feeling again. What is it?
It's the roller coaster effect, right? That's why we watch horror movies.
Well, you do this, you do Campfire and the paranormal, everything that you, people resonate with this because, you get your imagination going and get the chills.
Well, the thing is that people tell me, and I don't know if this is a compliment or a curse, if it's negative or positive, people say, I listen to the Campfire to calm me down and I can fall asleep. And I'm like, brought to you by Summonex. But it's funny. I just saw there's a study that a lot of people are soothed by watching horror movies.
I saw this. No, it was just sent to me. I was going to Renee, who's listening now, sent me that survey, right? The horror movie survey. And that was a pretty complete survey, by the way. That was pretty amazing to see how in depth it was. Horror movies rate up there with comedies number 1. Horror's like number 3 out of all of the genres that are out there. It's crazy. And you know what else I saw in that? Okay, yeah, The Shining and and The Exorcist and all. Do you know what they I don't know if you caught this. Alien is classified as a horror movie. Did you?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. It's pretty.
It does.
I mean,
it scared the crap
that
out
was
of
my
me.
that was my very first VHS in the 80s when we got a VCR. I got a VCR, and my first official, not recorded off a TV or anything, was Alien. What a great movie! I
gotta confess, I watched Alien start to finish 2 weeks ago. I watched.
Oh man, it holds up, doesn't it? Yeah, and I gotta tell you, did you ever see that scene in Spaceballs where they make fun of the scene where the alien comes out of John Hurt's stomach?
Yeah.
But then in Spaceballs, I think it's Michigan J. Frog, and he's like, "Hello, my baby, hello."
He's got a top hat. He's got a top hat and a cane. Yeah, it's great.
That's a great joke.
Great scene. It's probably better than the alien scene, actually.
Yeah. It's
the way that
fantastic.
they did that. The way that they did that. But looking back at this, the horror movie aspect, we know going into it with a comedy or a drama or some action film, you probably, hopefully, are going to be surprised by the ending. A horror movie, you know what's happening. You know what's going on, right?
It's not when they go and say, "Let me go investigate." It's not going to have a happy ending.
No. Don't go in that room. Don't go in the woods. Don't go in the garage.
Don't split off from the group.
Don't.
And they always split off from the group.
Right. But we do it. We watch it anyway.
But why do we ride roller coasters? You know, it's a similar kind of thing.
Do you have a favorite scare? You just mentioned Alien. Do you have a favorite horror movie from your childhood?
I think so, and it's probably not one that a lot of younger people will know, and it's probably not one that people would think, because Shining's definitely up there, Exorcist is definitely up there, The Omen's definitely up there, because I go for those kind of psychological things much more than the Friday 13th or Saw type stuff. Although I'll watch those, but I think that psychological horror is much scarier. Rosemary's Baby.
Ooh, way up there. Now, let me tell you why. Those are my top 5 as well. Okay. And I like where you're thinking with this. The reason why I look back at those films as an adult, I've realized those films were shot by directors that made them real. Rosemary's Baby was a real situation in a real, apartment building. The Exorcist, right?
Right.
It's the daughter, The Omen, they were shot. The Shining, right? These weren't horror. That wasn't the setup. The setup was normal people, normal thing.
Yeah.
And then,
So
like
Hereditary. Hereditary is a lot like that too, and a more modern movie. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's
and then with Rosemary's Baby and The Omen, and in some of those movies, there's actually real life corollaries in terms of, Exorcist is based on a real case, as you know, St. Louis, but of a boy. But if I remember correctly, but there were horrible things that happened to people connected with Rosemary's Baby, and also horrible things in real life and people connected to The Omen. They were essentially cursed films. I mean, Roman Polanski, Sharon Tate was his wife. We all know what happened to Sharon Tate shortly after that movie. Charles Manson, I believe, I don't know if it was the person who scored the movie or something, but somebody who was very involved in Rosemary's Baby fell out of a window to their death. And there's actually a scene in Rosemary's Baby where somebody falls out of like a window from a building to their death. The Omen, I think Gregory Peck's plane was struck by lightning. And then I think another person was killed during the making of The Omen, or was later killed and decapitated or something. I mean, just weird coincidences, weird stuff, if they're coincidences.
And I believe, let me ask you this. The power of the mind is strong. And if you fear something, and if there's something that's emotional to you, that there is the power to manifest this stuff. And you can turn around and make it real. Slender Man's a great example of that. You know what I mean? Like
tulpas, yeah.
Tulpas, or a modern example, a great example of it is Forbidden Planet. And if you think about it, the monster that they were fighting was the ultimate monster from their minds. And that's why they couldn't defeat it. And they couldn't necessarily see it or make it physical, but it would show up because it was created. It was the ultimate opponent, right? Created from the id. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I have, we're going to head to a break. I talk about this stuff all the time, Jim. And if I have Pandora's box is the wrong, but it's close. If I have a fear, I'm going to go upstairs after the show, after dinner, and get ready for it. I'm going to go into my bedroom. I'm going to turn on the light, and there's going to be something standing in there. You know what I mean? It's just like it, and it's like I'm asking for this to happen. And so I think about it every night. Oh, I do. Jim, there is not a night that I don't go up those stairs and go into my bedroom that I don't have that thought. Like,
I think about it from time to time. I wouldn't say every night, but I do think about it sometimes. The thing that I worry about is the idea of stuck souls. That's like my phobia, is this idea of stuck souls, that somebody dies suddenly or through tragic circumstances. I mean, some people die and they're like, 95 years old, they've had a good life, that's just the natural progression. But then there's people who die in the prime of life or just some tragic, horrible, unexpected circumstance. And then supposedly some people say they're stuck and they don't know they're dead or they don't want to move on and those kind of things. That terrifies me. That's the kind of thing that scares me. Maybe it's just because I've literally heard thousands of stories, as I'm sure you have too. But it doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't bother me that much. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it doesn't. Maybe I'm jaded. I don't know.
You remember the movie, What Dreams May Come?
Yep.
Fantastic movie. And I think that, and it was so different and so creative, but I think that tapped into a lot of our fears. What if we just got stuck and didn't know it, right? Because that was the whole scary part for her, was she didn't even know, that purgatory, whatever.
It's like Sixth Sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Let's take our break. The one and only Jim Harold is with us. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow's Halloween. Tonight is our annual Halloween special with Jim Harold. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Jim, you stay right there. We will be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's fade to black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Beckley Teppy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Jimmy Church Guy TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is our annual Halloween special with the one and only Jim Harold. He's been doing this with us for years, and I really look forward to it. And we're just telling scary stories tonight in celebration of Halloween. Halloween is tomorrow night. And Jim, so you've got Campfire 1 through 5 out, but Campfire 6 is due this month?
No, that must be an old bio. I should have updated my bio. 6 is out. 6 has been out for a year. So that's my bad. That's my bad, everybody. Not Jimmy's. Not Jimmy's. That's on me. No, 6 is out. I was going to do 7 this year, but man, it's been so busy. I just it's hard to get a book out every year. It really is. But we have 6 of them out, and each one has 65 to 70 stories in it. And we basically take we take a 2 or 3 year sample, and we take what we think are the best stories, and we just clean them up a little bit to make them more readable. But we keep the true intent to it, the true voice of the storyteller. So if you I hate to say it, but it's a great bathroom reader. You want a quick story or two, or some people read it when they go to bed. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It helps soothe them to go to bed reading a spooky story. So those are all available on Amazon, and you literally type in Jim Harold Campfire and they'll pop right up.
Yeah, jimharold.com, everybody. And we've got it up in the chat, but Bill and Jessica and John, if you could get that access up into the chat one more time. What is it about that? The dream state of going into, I like a good nightmare once in a while. And I went through a really bad period. It was a good period, a bad period of reading scary stuff and listening to scary stuff before I went to bed. And I would do it to make sure that the chess pieces were placed out correctly for a really good, terrifying dream. Do you ever
Wow.
do that? Do you ever do
No,
that?
no, I've never done that. I've never tried to kind of bring on a nightmare. It's just I don't remember having mainly when I have nightmares, they're like a job that I had 15 years ago and my boss is PO'd at me. That's my nightmare. I don't have monsters coming out of me or coming at me or out of me for that matter, or at me or anything. It's like always like a boss from like 15 years ago disappointed in me. It's just there's something psychological going on there. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of horrible, terrifying dreams. Now, it's always possible that I forget the dreams. They do say that is a thing. Definitely you sometimes forget your dreams. But it's so funny you mentioned dreams because dreams have been coming up a lot on the show. And we just had a call the other day. I don't even think it's been up on the show yet. I'm not sure. I don't, sometimes when you're dealing with all these stories, they kind of blend one to another. But we had a young lady from Tennessee, and she told a story, and it wasn't particularly scary, but it's interesting because it's a phenomena that you see in the dream state sometimes, is she had a dream that she was in like a body of water, like a river or something, and there were alligators. And her dad was looking at her, and he was on a boat. So, it was kind of scary dream, but not, not horrible. She gets up in the morning. There's she just told me this 2 weeks ago. And she tells her mom, and she's like, do me a favor. Don't tell your dad the dream, but go ask him the dream he had last night. So she goes and asks her dad, hey, mom said you had an interesting dream last night. What was your dream? Oh, well, he said it was the weirdest thing. You and other members of the family were in the water and there were all these alligators. And I was standing in a boat looking at you. And that's it. That's the story. And I often say the best campfire stories end with a question mark, not a period. And this is a thing because I actually just recently, for one of my Plus Club shows, I spoke to a dream expert and I threw that story out to him. And he said that is common. People co-experience dreams. And that's why I believe, and we had another amazing story from a woman from the UK who had a similar story, who had that kind of a dream, but it was actually a premonition of a potential car accident that almost happened a year later, but literally because of the dream, something that happened in the dream, they didn't do what they did in the dream. They did it differently, and they didn't get in the car accident, but they were in exactly the same car, the exact same. It was like a Florida or something like that. Everything matched up, and her boyfriend had exactly the same dream. And this dream expert told me that is definitely thing. I believe that there's dreams where, Jimmy, you go to the grocery store, you're at the produce section, you get a head of cabbage. And then that night you're dreaming you're flying on a head of cabbage. It's just nonsense, maybe. Or maybe our brain is filing things. But I think that there's these other dreams where we tap into something. Just had an amazing story of someone who literally saw the 9/11 attacks. Very serious guy, very smart guy, Mark from New Hampshire, very earnest guy. And he said he had the dream of a plane, an American Airlines plane, when they had the silver side of it and the blue and red stripe. And this was a few days before 9/11, and that it crashed in some kind of a building. And he was out in California, and he was hesitant to fly home until he realized the plane that he was going to fly on was not American Airlines. And he wanted to call the airline and tell them. And his friend said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. They're never going to believe you that there's going to be some kind of plane crashing into a building. They're not going to believe it. And then he had another friend who had to fly from the coast. And he said, I will not let you fly if it's on American Airlines. It was not. And they flew and they were okay. So anyway, morning of 9/11, he's asleep. Phone rings. It's his friend that he was staying with on the coast. Said, turn on your TV. And it's the planes crashing into the Twin Towers. He said, oh my God, that's what you dreamed. And he said, no, that is not what I dreamed. I did not dream these, huge, tall buildings. These were not very large, massive skyscrapers. It's not what I dreamed. So anyway, a few days later, the video of the Pentagon attack comes out, and Mark sees it, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's what I dreamed." There was green grass. It was a lower profile building. That is exactly what I dreamed. And he really had almost PTSD from it because he felt so guilty that he didn't let anybody know. But Jimmy, I ask you, what could he done? And I told him, I said, "Mark, don't beat yourself up over this." And you could tell it still impacted him. It still impacts him. There is absolutely nothing, because one of two things would have happened. First of all, they would have thought, okay, this guy's crazy.
They probably get phone calls like that all the time.
Exactly. Then let's say he did call, and let's say it did happen. Did he have anything to do with it? Did he have any foreknowledge of it?
Exactly right.
It's no win situation.
Nope.
And he even talked about how he went to visit the 9/11 exhibit in New York, and how he saw some of the wreckage, and that was very, impactful to him. But there's something about the dreams, and I also get these calls about people who connect with their loved ones, and it's not like the average dream. People say it's more real than real. It's more real than reality. And then there's some kind of closure. There's some kind of communication. And I believe that's totally real, because when we dream, sometimes I think we enter a state where, you talked about the veil before, the veil is thinned somehow. I don't know what it is, but I believe it's a real thing.
Last month, 2 months ago, but this is recent. Speaking of dreams, I have this dream and of some friends of mine in Indianapolis. So I wake up and I remember the whole thing. It was really cool. So I call my friend, and his wife picks up, Michelle, and or Julie, and I go, "Julie, I dreamt about you guys last night." She goes, "Oh, really? What?" I said, it was crazy. Bruce was selling a purple 69 Dodge Challenger online.
Very specific.
And I see it, and I said, "Don't sell the car. I'm going to buy it." And I drive out to your house, and it's parked in the front yard. And then I never bought the car because he wouldn't tell me how much it was. And then the dream ended. She goes, "What kind of car?" I go, 1969 purple Dodge Challenger. She goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah, it's crazy, right?" She goes, "I bought him one for his birthday 20 years ago. It's sitting in the barn. Nobody's seen it."
Whoa.
I go, "What?" Now, to your point, oddly specific, right? And Julie and I just sat on the phone with each other going, "That is the craziest thing." She goes, "It won't start. It just sits in the barn, and he keeps meaning to get it started, but nobody knows about it. It's been in the barn for 20 years. I didn't know about it, and how weird. And I've been telling him to sell it. I've been telling him, and like your friend, like Mark and his story,
right?
And then you get the validation of it afterward, like I did with my phone call to Julie. And that's when you got to step back and go, man, the skeptics and the critics about this kind of stuff that want to poo-poo it and say it's this or it's that, don't know what they're talking about. They haven't been through the experience.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to, if I can, turn the tables on you for a minute. Now, you've experienced a lot of things. You shared several of them tonight. I ask this of my guests of Campfire who have multiple experiences. Do you think you are more sensitive than the average person, and maybe that's why you're finding yourself exposed to these different things? And furthermore, is that why you do what you do?
I'll save this for the interview on Campfire that was supposed to happen in the last 5 years. That's a great question, and I'm thinking about that more and more now. at this place in my life. And I kind of answer it in this way. This is my own resolve of the issue. Okay. So it's kind of personal, but I feel that because of the lack of parental or adult guidance as a child, parents divorce young, my mom's single mother, she's doing her own thing, raising 5 kids. And so I didn't have adults around me to guide me. I'm 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, going through that period of my life where I was free to do what I wanted, right? I didn't have an adult to say no, or this isn't this or that. And I fell into UFOs, the paranormal, at a very young age, and I just really enjoyed the subjects. And so I feel that allowed me to open my mind and accept this kind of stuff, and also pay attention to it. Pay attention to synchronicities, pay attention to coincidences, pay attention to these things, because they all happen for a reason. Deja vus, these things. And so yes, as I have gone through life, I've probably experienced just as much as everybody else. Okay. But I see it.
Right. That makes
you know what
sense.
I mean? Yeah. I pay attention to it. I'm looking for it. I want those things. So yeah. I think that totally answers your question. It put me, okay. All right. So the second half, that was a multi-layer question. So the back half of it was, is it why I do what I do now? Trip on this. When I was 6 years old, 7 years old, I was very young. I had a recurring dream and vision when I was awake of me doing this.
Wow.
Okay. And I didn't know what it was. It was me sitting in a studio, talking into a microphone, interviewing somebody and telling stories in the dark. Right.
Wow.
But I didn't know. I had the glass, right? The studio, the microphone, the head for the whole thing, doing what I'm exactly this, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I told it, but it was a constant thing. When I started doing radio, and I was in a radio studio at a network,
Sure.
And in there, I swear it was the craziest deja vu. It was just like weirdness every night, where I just come on. Hi, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And people are listening to me, and they're listening to the show, and I'm tripping on the deja vu. That's what's going on with me in the studio. Yeah.
It really is something else. Well, two things. First of all, I surreptitiously looked while you were talking. The last time you were on apparently was 2021, and that's absolutely ridiculous. So as soon as we get done tonight, I'm sending you an email so we can book an interview.
You sent me an email last month. You sent me an email last month. I'll post it right now. You want me to post it up for everybody?
No, you don't need to post it. You don't need to post it.
Jim Harold here that slipped between the cracks, man. Let's get a show going right away. And
okay. Well, we'll do it. I want to do it. Let's get it going. I was going to say something that was weird. Not that I want to make it about me, but just interestingly enough, a weird little synchronicity about me and the fact that I'm into this stuff. Part of it, I think, is when I grew up, I'm in my mid 50s. So in the 70s, people forget were a very kind of occult, spooky time. There were a lot of different TV shows, a lot of popular media. But what was interesting is I grew up in a very industrial area. People say you live on the wrong side of the tracks. Well, I could literally see the train tracks from my house. So I almost lived on the tracks. So it was my dad was a steel worker, and unlike everybody else that he worked with, he didn't move out to the suburbs. He stayed like within 10 minutes of the steel mill. So you could look out the front window, and there was like a BOF, Black compressed oxygen furnace and there's fire belching out of it. So that gives you the scene. But what was weird is I had a group of kids I was close to in elementary school, and we totally lost touch for 30 years. And when we reconnected through Facebook, and Facebook does have its bad elements and it's getting worse all the time, but it helps reconnect you with people sometimes who you've lost track of. Each one of there was a girl I was very friendly with, and there was another guy I was very friendly with. And both of them totally independently ended up working in spooky stuff. One woman does spooky crafts and sells spooky crafts and does those kind of things. Another guy does an internet movie horror host thing. And I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but it was like something in the ether, something among those kids that grew up in that neighborhood, maybe because it was so gritty and industrial and I don't know, that gave us an appreciation for it. Maybe it was the horror hosts that we followed as kids, but I always found it fascinating that three of us independently made a big part of our careers in the world of the spooky. I just thought that was kind of uncanny. You know, three kids in the same elementary school class ended up working in that field.
Do you know who Ryan Murphy is?
Yeah.
Okay. American Horror Story.
Yeah. Glee, all that stuff.
Yeah. And he is, you know, he's one of the power people here in Hollywood.
Sure.
An immense amount of success. He was my neighbor growing up. Trip on that, right? Rode the same school bus. Yeah. Right down. And so we were last year, we're driving around my old neighborhood with some friends. And we're taking pictures of, you know, everything. And and Kurt, who's driving, he goes, "Yeah, man, it's Ryan Murphy's house right there." I go, "Yeah, that's right. Wow." Right. You know what I mean? And so I stepped back and I thought about this. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Same school, same friends, same teachers, right? Same environment, same everything. What happened to him? Right? What, you know, although we kind of, you know, we both left Indianapolis and came to Hollywood and built a career, and, you know, me doing what I'm doing, but his stuff is it's great. It's great. But it's twisted, man. It's way twisted. Same. You could literally hit a rock or hit his house with a rock from my house, right? 8 houses away. And you know, what's the difference? Or is it the same? You know, did we drink the same water? And there you go. Yeah, it's bizarre, like you and your friends.
It's just it's synchronistic. I got to share one quick story because I wanted to tell you this one. We were talking before about movies, and I brought up The Sixth Sense, and I kind of had an ulterior motive because, you know, that famous scene, you know, I see dead people. Well, this story I entitled it "I Smell Dead People." And it's a quick hitter. This is Emily from Florida. Her mom works in the psychiatric field. She actually works at a facility where folks live who are dealing with issues and those kind of things. And this facility was in a small town, and it had been a 3-story hospital. Now, the top 2 stories are where the patients lived. And the bottom floor was for offices for the staff and the administration. Now, some patients had access to those offices on that lower floor to see their doctors and their social workers. And Emily's mom said, and Emily had been there too, she said, you know, this was not what you would think. It was very bright. It was very airy, very pleasant, not scary or dark. So one evening, apparently, or one day, she said she was in her office and one of these patients came into her office. And this female patient walks in and starts sniffing in the air in her office. And the woman thought, well, Emily's mom thought, you know, these patients, sometimes they'll be a little eccentric. They'll do some things you don't expect. But she asked the patient, she said, is everything okay? And this woman keeps sniffing. And the patient says, I smell dead skin. And then she turns around and walks out. So it took her back a little bit, Emily's mom, but she thought, again, these people have some eccentricities. That's probably what's going on. She actually walked the patient back to her room. So anyway, later in the day, she's talking to some coworkers, and they kind of do like a double take. And they said, the floor we work on? And Emily's mom's like, yeah, right. That used to be where the morgue was for the hospital that was here before. Emily's mom was speechless.
What do you do with that? I read the other day, Jim, check this out. I did not know this. I do a fader fact every day, right? Some facts, some crazy thing. And I have a dark mind. I do. If you get in there, it's pretty scary. But I like fun facts, different facts. All right. Not how many vertebrae are in a giraffe's neck. Don't care about that. But so I read this fact, and did you know that 50% of the air on the subway is dead skin?
Oh, God.
Right? Just unpack that.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Oh, man.
Mind the gap.
30 to 50% of the air you breathe on the subway is dead skin cells. Yeah. No more subways for me.
Yeah, it makes me want to take an Uber or taxi or something.
Well, which goes back to your point, though. People can smell that, I'm sure, if they know what they're right. And
well, I mean, was she smelling some kind of remnant, or was it more of a ghostly thing? I was thinking more of like again, because it's the show. Again, it might be physiological, but I was thinking maybe she was sensing the spirits, thus the dead skin.
Yeah, I'm going darker than that. She was smelling real dead skin.
Yeah, I think that's scarier than actually the ghostly explanation.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me how do I say this? When I see something or I feel something, and it could be a movie, it could be a documentary, it could be a book, it could be a song, could be driving around in the car, but I'm always on the brink of what if I ride my Harley a lot, and I live out here in the desert. So one of the things, and when I say desert, it's the Mojave Desert, and you get out there and there's nothing, and it's majestic when you're on a Harley riding around. It's straight up what you think it is. It is very, very cool, but you see strange stuff. And I have pulled up to old abandoned homes that are sitting in the middle of nowhere, right? There's nothing out there. And I pulled up and parked and walked around, and I just thought to myself, this is the moment where Nosferatu shows up, right? This is the moment where some ghost
I'm just picturing him coming, that old black and white Nosferatu coming out.
This is it. This is the man with the hook. I go back to my Harley, and there's a hook on my bike. Right. But
that makes me, but here's another one. And this goes back to one of your earlier stories about the house not being there. And there's been books written about this premise. I think Blake Crouch might have done one. There's different ones, but the idea that you go one day out on your ride, right? You go on your half a tank where you go out and then you come back, and then you come back and your house is not there and nobody knows you. And it's like, but I'm Jimmy Church. And I was like, who's Jimmy Church? We have no record of a Jimmy Church.
You know what they say in the world of physics, Jim? Everything's will happen. It's probability.
Any possible permutation could happen. Like, basically, we're doing this show in another multiverse, but I'm in front of guitars and you're in front of the jellyfish.
Right. By the way, I tried to find those jellyfish. I can't find them.
I think they're like, I looked for a replacement because people would like, nobody gives a damn what I say. All they care about is the jellyfish. So I tried to find a backup jellyfish. So when these die, I can just put them right back. Can't get them anymore.
Can't get
at least the one I have. I think it's Hammock or Schlemmick or whatever you say that. And my wife got him for me for Christmas. Like 10 years ago. And I'm like, they're going to eventually die. And then some people are like, are they real? And I'm like, yes, I would put poor little jellyfish in a tiny, tiny tank. I'm just that sadistic. I would do that. No, of course they're not real, but they're pretty cool.
I went through that years ago when I would do my AMAs, and I want people to ask me about UFOs or ghosts, and
ask about your guitars.
That's what that dude.
What about that Les Paul behind you?
What about that guitar there? Can I see that? And I remember there are people listening right now that remember those days where literally I would end up taking 15, 20, 30 guitars. That was the show. Okay.
Yeah, you'll know this. Is that true about Les Paul, that he got in a car accident and he actually had his arm set in such a way that he would be able to still play the guitar? Is that true? Is that apocryphal, or is that true?
I've heard the same thing. I met him and talked to him. I've met him a few times, but I remember the first time I met him in New York. And he had come up because he was a recording pioneer,
Well, yeah, he did the sound on sound, multi-track, Mary Ford, all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And so I worked for a company that he loved. It was called Alesis, that built those multi-track recorders. So anyway, we're talking and in New York at a trade show. And I got to tell you, he said to me, and he was not young. He was not young when and this was 30 years ago, but he goes, hey man, I'll put you on the guest list tonight. I'm playing, he names the bar. I'm playing Reds on Broadway, tonight with my trio. I'll put you on the guest list. And I said, all right. How you know what I mean? For everybody, that's a Les Paul right there. That's a Les Paul. I've got a bunch of Les Pauls, but I put that one up for Ace Frehley, right? That's one of after he.
They're away. Heavy. Les Pauls are heavy.
Very, very heavy guitar. They haven't changed in its design since they came out when he first 1953, 1954, and it's still the same guitar today, same design, same idea. And there it is right there. But for somebody like that has just changed, the world. How many people can say that? Not many, and I'll give you an example. And then I want your example. There is music. There is the world before Elvis and after Elvis. Right.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that happens once in a while. Do you have an example of that? Who changed?
If it's music, the next logical one are the Beatles, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In other fields, I don't know if you talk sports, Michael Jordan, possibly. Maybe we're seeing another one with Ohtani in baseball. Yeah. And
Eric Von Daniken changed the world.
Oh yeah. Hey, I got a story about Eric Von Daniken.
Yeah, give it to me.
I've been wanting to interview him for years, and I got with his assistant, and he was very gracious, and they set up the interview. It was via phone. This is Eric Von Daniken. Very nice, but he was very gracious. So anyway, I had gotten this new 12-track recorder. And it was before the Rodecaster and before I had the Apollo. And, this is maybe 10, 12 years ago. And then I, did it. And I'm like, damn, that was a good interview. That was really good, Jim. You should be proud of yourself because, I remember watching a little kid, Chariot of the Gods. It's like, I knew who Eric Von Däniken was way before Ancient Aliens. So, I mean, like, to me, I'm like an old soul. I really gravitate to people like him, the late Brad Steiger, and people like that, who I loved. Brad, he was fantastic. But anyway, so I'm like, oh, this is so great. Let me listen back to it. Well, remember, this was a new 12-track recorder. Jim armed the wrong track. So I had 30 lovely minutes of silence. Well, luckily he was very gracious and we redid the interview. But I must say, it was nowhere near as good as that first interview. And then I subsequently interviewed him again when he had his next book. So, yeah, but that's my Eric Von Däniken story. And that's the only time I've ever done that.
I've got an Eric story. It's not paranormal, but it's just like yours. Very cool. I'm checking my email in the morning. This was 3 years ago. Got an email from Eric Von Däniken. Right?
Ooh.
So I open it up and it says, Jimmy, Eric, I want you to be my first guest on my new podcast.
Wow.
When are you available? And I'm reading. I'm like, how did I, what? So of course, I said, sure. And so it's about a week later. We do it. He's in Switzerland, of course, and I'm here in California. And I don't get nervous. I've done way too many. I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind, Jim. I was out. I had no. So he comes on, and it's a recording, but he comes on and he's in his blue jacket, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does the intro, he does the bio, he does all that stuff. But then he goes, "So Jimmy, I'm not making this up. You can go check it out." First question out of the gate. So Jimmy, how did you get your start? I said, Eric, you. And just exactly what you just said. How many of through your own experience, how many like us in this community have that exact story? I would say 100% or close to it.
Yeah, it was Chariot the Gods, In Search of, Charles Berlitz's books about the Bermuda Triangle. Those were the gateway drugs.
For sure. What was that other Sightings? Do you remember that show?
Sightings were good. The interesting thing, I'm in the Cleveland market, and Tim White, who hosted that, later became an anchor at our local NBC affiliate, which I was at Monday doing an interview. So it's really but it was wild that he became an anchor here after that. And I didn't realize this because I recently saw Henry Winkler speak when he was doing his book tour, and he was a producer on that show, which I must have forgotten or never noticed. He was a producer, like an EP on
well,
that
he had
show.
His production company. He still does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. No,
it's one of those things that just how it all encircles. But really, I mean, for me, most people think of Leonard Nimoy as the In Search of guy.
Read what I just posted.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. I've got the DVD set. Love it.
I do too. And
Darren McGavin. I mean, between playing Kolchak and the dad in Christmas Story, he is a god. He's a god in my book.
I love that guy. I'm just gonna say this about a year ago, I don't have a DVD player anymore, but the Night Stalker went through my thing because I found the DVD set. So I went and I ordered it, just bought it from Amazon, and I sat and watched and binged every Night Stalker episode, just thinking about how great that series was.
It was, and it was ahead of its time. I think a great inspiration for things like the X-Files. And I worked with a guy when I was in radio. I worked with a sales rep who dressed just like Kolchak. He had the same nice guy, but I'm like, my God, he got his thing. He got his wardrobe from Darren McGavin. I was going to tell you one quick other interview story, and then I'll shut up when we can get back to this.
Do your thing.
One of my favorite interviews was, and I don't even remember how this happened, was Rainn Wilson from The Office. And he has a show called Radio Rental, and then he had another show called Dark Air. And it was basically a parody of Art Bell and so forth. And I believe me, I have a deep belief in this stuff. I think it's real, but I do think sometimes in life, you have to have fun with topics, whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it's sports. Sometimes you just got to laugh. So he played this character called Terry Carnation. So they were promoting this Dark Air podcast. So he came on for a half hour, 25 minutes, a half hour, and he was in character. And I interviewed him, and I was the straight man. And this was all improvised. There was no script. There was no direction. And for 30 minutes, I interviewed him as though he was a real Art Bell style paranormal host. The premise being he's been a paranormal host for 30 years, and he was improvising the whole time. And it's all I could do, but like just burst out laughing. It was some of the most fun that I've ever had. I wish when I did it would probably, now it's been 5-6 years ago before I moved into this house. I wish I had better quality cameras and stuff. But it's still, it holds up. It is hilarious. It's like I held my own for 25 minutes with Rainn Wilson, but he was so funny. And I could tell that he actually, because I did talk to him a little bit, he had a real respect for this stuff and has a real interest. And he actually has a spiritual podcast now. I think it's called Soul Boom, that gets into esoteric and spiritual, not as much ghosty stuff, but more kind of high level, kind of like Deepak Chopra kind of stuff. And, but the point being, you could tell that, yes, he was having fun with it, but he did have a real respect for it. And he was fantastic because he was running late for the interview. And I get a call from LA, or he wasn't running late, but it was a couple hours before the interview. I get a call from an LA area code. And I usually don't answer those because I figure they're spam. But I'm like, well, I am interviewing Rainn Wilson today. Maybe I should answer this. Maybe it's his assistant. And I answer the phone, and he picks up, and he says, is this Jim Harold? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, this is Rainn. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, this is Rainn. I'm running a little bit late today. Could we push our interview back an hour? Well, let me see if I can fit it in my calendar. And I'm like, exactly. Absolutely, we can do it. I mean, you know, I just thought it was the most fun. And I've never done a comedy episode of any of my shows, but that was the one. And I loved doing it. It was so much fun. There's
a comedian, and you should look him up.
Oh, UFO Phil?
No. Brent Pella. Are you familiar with Brent Pella?
No.
He's the conscious bro. And now he is top-notch, international, world-class comedian, Brent Pella. And just like what you just said, if you can't make fun of yourself, if you can't laugh at yourself, right? And his alien stuff, he goes full makeup and does these videos. It's crazy. Plays great. But that's not what makes, well, it's part of what makes him so brilliant. But he knows the conscious community. He knows the 7 chakras, the pineal gland and crystals.
Yeah.
Sage and all that new agey stuff, which I love. Those are my friends and things. But if you want, that is the easiest stuff to crack on. If you want to bust, you know what I mean? You could, and you go and watch Brent's video. So what we did last year at the Conscious Life Expo is we had him as a special guest. And the room was packed. And we did a late night thing. We had an open bar, and I think we put maybe 500-600 people in this room. I introduce him, and he goes out, and this is the Conscious Life Expo. He is the conscious bro. This is a guy cracking jokes on about the audience that he is speaking to. This isn't at a nightclub. This is at the Conscious Life Expo. Right. And I got to tell you, I was nervous. I was like, either it's going to go one way or the other, right? People loved it. People loved it. People loved it.
And I never want to make, a big thing for me, it's really important for me when people come on a campfire and share their personal stories, I'm not making fun of them. In fact, I believe the vast majority of people come on, and I believe the vast majority of people being 100% serious. So I want to take their stories seriously. So I don't want to make light of them. But like I said, in another context, like what you did, like what I did, or even I forgot about it until you mentioned this gentleman, but I've also interviewed UFO Phil a couple of times, who was a lot of fun. I mean, occasionally, as long as you're not mixing it, as long as you're not making fun, like being the morning zoo where, hey, call in with your ghost stories. That never happened. I hate that stuff. But as long as you're being respectful, but you do these little comedic things in other venues, I think it's just fine. I think it's a nice release valve kind of, because this stuff gets pretty heavy sometimes.
Yeah. I remember this UFO Phil guy. Yeah. Should I have him on the show? Is he good?
I think he was fun. I haven't talked to him in years. He's on George's show all the time. You're used to be. But I had him on a couple of times. He was a lot of fun. He's totally in character the whole time. One of the things was he talks about his leader is Zaxxon. And I said, he says his leader is Zaxxon. I said, UFO Phil, I have a question. Why is your leader named after an 80s video game? And he said, well, I am not aware of any such a relationship, but he does have very good skin. I mean, he's very funny. He's very funny.
What do you make of, in the a little time that we have left? I would love to tell some more ghost stories, but there's something more important going on. And that is, it's twofold. One, over the last 5 years or so, you started to put on the UFO jacket, and you know what I mean, and started talking about this a bit more. Right? Don't react to that. Just go with Just go with it.
Okay.
Just go with this.
Okay.
Just go with it. But what I have found with you is that your knowledge of the UFO subject and things is well researched, and you know what you're talking about with it. And now all of the sudden, you being in media, me being in media, 3-Eye Atlas, and what is going on right now with that?
That is the wildest thing. That's why. But I just want to clarify something. I know it's kind of thought that maybe I've gravitated more towards UFOs. My second guest in 2005 was Stanton Friedman.
Yeah, you tell me that every single time.
I have always done UFOs. I feather it in.
Defend yourself. You don't have to.
You know what? You know why it is, though. I know why it is. See, when I started the Paranormal Podcast, which was so early, I got the name The Paranormal Podcast. But when I started that in 2005, to me, I always felt the paranormal included UFOs and included cryptids and included ghosts and all this weird stuff that we can't categorize. At least in recent years, paranormal equals ghosts. And I never meant it that way. I meant it, frankly, like coast to coast, where one night it's cryptids, one night it's UFOs, the next night it's ghosts, next time it's time slips, then it's simulation theory.
It's the Egyptian pyramids and ancient
exactly.
history. Yeah,
exactly. Right. That's exactly what I was shooting for. So, but anyway, 3-Eye Atlas, Avi Loeb, who I've gotten to interview a couple of times. I don't know if I'll be able to get him on again. He was just on Rogan. And I mean, once somebody's on Rogan, it's difficult to get him on again. but I don't know. I'm not convinced, but it seems very unusual. He just released an article, and there's like about 8 different things that are like within 0.0005% of happening by chance. Okay. And one of the things, the wow signal, the wow signal from 1977 from my home state, Ohio State University. And I have a graduate from Ohio State University, my youngest daughter this last year. the gentleman who found that very powerful signal, so much so he wrote on his computer printout from 1977, "Wow!" exclamation point. That's where it gets the name wow signal. Three-Eye Atlas seems to have originated from the same area, and that coincidence. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. And that is less than 1% chance to have happened just by chance.
Yeah,
and
the universe is a big place, and for that
Yeah.
to be lining up is pretty scary. Over the last 24 hours, all right, 2 different observatories. Now, the paper was just submitted for publication today. It'll probably be published tomorrow. I have the names of the 2 astronomers that wrote the paper. Anyway, I read the briefing on it. Three-Eye Atlas just brightened substantially. And this is they have no reason for this. None. Three-Eye Atlas, if people are imagining that it is orbiting our sun and that it's close to the sun, it's going to heat up like other. No, Three-Eye Atlas is passing the sun by a significant amount. The reason why it's behind the sun, not because it's orbiting the sun. We are orbiting the sun. We are on the opposite side. Three-Eye Atlas is coming down this way. Here's the sun. Here's Earth. And so, and a better way to put it is as Three-Eye Atlas. Let me change cameras. So here's the sun. Three-Eye Atlas is going this way, and Earth is coming around the sun. So eventually we'll be on the same side of the sun because of Earth's orbit, and Three-Eye Atlas is going this way. Three-Eye Atlas is not orbiting the sun. It's going straight through our star system. But while we were over here, we had 2 satellites that were imaging satellites that just caught Three-Eye Atlas brightening by a significant amount. Now, I looked at some of the data sets. We'll see more of it in the paper when it's published, but it's looking like it kicked up between 30 and 50%. Like,
why aren't we seeing more images from NASA? I mean, I know they're talking about the government shutdown and things, but it seems a little suspicious to me that they released 1 picture or something. Why is that? What are they hiding? And then, and I can't remember the name of the organization, but one of the organizations might have been SETI or somebody. They changed their guidelines for what we would do in the case of alien contact. They haven't done that for 15 years. And then there was another organization, and again, I don't have it off the top of my head, but they kind of had basically what is like an alert, like we're going to be watching the skies more closely for things like asteroids and so forth, like an asteroid warning system between November of this year and January of next year. Seems coincidental to me. So it just, I'm not willing to say it's absolutely ET, but boy, if it walks like a duck, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's duck. And I've seen things. Now, this I haven't necessarily seen from a reputable source, but I've heard some squabblings on X and things that maybe it's sending out prime numbers. There's some thought that it's somehow sending out a signal of prime numbers, which I believe is exactly the way you would think that if a ET entity was trying to reach us or something, that might be one of the ways they would do it. Now that's more hearsay. I don't have anything to back that up, but I've heard people talk about that as well.
I just like you, I've got a lot of contacts and a lot of people and that I've talked to about this, both from the science side and from, our family of woo and trying to, everybody's asking the same questions. I don't have any secret information. I would be lying if I said that I did. But what I do find very interesting is that my science friends that may or may not be woo, but scientists are all kind of saying the same thing. It's simply not a comet. That they don't know what it is. Are they leaning towards ET? Are they going in this direction? No, not yet, but they're open to it because comet is not what it is. And this is where the dangerous zone is for me, Jim, maybe for you too, is that I think that the government and the propaganda that was put out about 3I Atlas being a comet was completely premature. That was based on data sets, but I don't think they wanted to freak people out, and just wanted to go. But here's the problem. We have 2 comets that we can see right now in the sky, right? Swan and Lemon are at the same time in the sky.
I just thought of something, and it didn't occur to me to just this instant. Isn't it interesting that President Trump, some people would say President Trump, but President Trump and Xi just got together in South Korea. Now, of course, it's to talk about trade, but you wonder, did 3I Atlas come up? Did 3I Atlas come up in that meeting between Trump and Xi?
I can tell you this. Everything that every country has, every military, every university, every telescope, every satellite, every spectrometer, every piece of is pointed at that thing right now. There isn't anybody not looking at it.
I literally,
we have a lack of information, right? But
it just hit me. It just hit me now. How often do you see the president of the United States and the premier of China get together? Not often. Interesting timing. Interesting.
Yeah, twice every 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, interesting timing.
Well, it's so funny when you talk about things like that. There are people assume that this stuff goes on all the time. It doesn't. You can look at Gap. It's like, who is the last president that went to China? Nixon?
I don't know. Yeah, he opened China.
You know what I mean? That was 50 years ago. So no, this does not. You're right. It's highly.
Well, it wasn't technically in China. They were in South Korea, but still.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And our world leaders, yes. Are they talking about this? Yes. Are the intelligence agencies talking? You know that they are. This is a big, big, big deal. But we don't have any information coming at us. It's imaged. That they've, what if it's sending out a signal and we're not being told about it?
And we have the best telescopes trained on it. We have better telescopes in the sky than we've ever had. And you get these, like the one picture literally looked like a fly. If you go outside your house and you have your porch light and you take a picture of a fly with your cell phone, that's what it looked like. And I'm like, you're telling me they can't do better than that. I call BS.
Yep.
I call BS.
So over the next 2 weeks, this is not in the government's control right now. It is out of their control. There are too many. I've got a ginormous telescope sitting in there, and it's a baby telescope, but I can see a lot with it. There are so many amateur astronomers out there with gear that can now image and track this thing, now that it will be on the same side of the sun here very shortly. And so they are not going to be able to fudge images or mislead. The public is all over this, and it's going to be very interesting. Right now, we have a lack of information because it's on the other side of the sun, and the only people that are imaging it are satellites. But in a second, it's going to be the citizens of this planet looking at that, and it's going to be very, very, very interesting. Now, my point is, it just lit up. Jim, what if it does something crazy? What if it hits the brakes?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
If it reorients,
yes,
it would apparently be under intelligent control. I think that's the test of it. If it reorients, if it pivots in some way, then that says there's intelligent control. It's not just a comment. What do they say then? What do you
say? I don't care about them. What do you say? What goes through your mind?
You talked about moments that change everything. Talk about the moment that changes everything. That is the moment that changes everything, because it throws into question our reality, religion, and maybe that's the reason why the truth has been kept from us for so long, because the powers that be think we can't handle it. Can we handle it? Remains to be seen. People went pretty crazy in 2020, and that was a pandemic, as horrible as it was. That's something that happens in the course of human history. This would be something that's never happened in the course of recorded human history. Maybe it happened in the past, if you believe ancient aliens and chariots of the gods. So it would truly be the ultimate game changer in every aspect of our lives. But like most things, I think people would learn to live with it. But it would be a hell of an adjustment.
Is it the ultimate non-trivial question that we have been asking since the dawn of man? Are we alone? It is, isn't it? It's got to be up
one
there.
of them. I think there's three of them. I think, is there a God? I say yes. Is there an afterlife? I say yes. And are we alone? I say no. And I think those, to me, if you answer those three big questions, a lot of stuff falls into place.
I think those are the three. Evolve. Yeah, we can continue on with evolution. You know what I mean? We can evolve as a species. Sure.
No, I think it would make a big difference if we knew the answer to any of those questions. And what we do is hopefully try to get people to think about, you do it, and I try to do it, get to people to think, aside from just telling spooky stories, which I love, and giving people an opportunity. I love the idea of making people think. And a lot of people think, these paranormal hosts, they're just a bunch of goofy guys and stuff. But we help make people think about big, important questions. So maybe we're not so goofy after all.
You're not. Jim, thank you so much, man. Another great night on the show. And listen, seriously, it's jimharold.com. We have the links below. Everything that you need is right there. Jim, another fantastic night. Thank you so much, my friend. And I just saw your email come in. Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Jim. Have a good, safe, and amazing Halloween tomorrow night with you and the family. Okay, thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Stay spooky. Bye-bye. Happy
Halloween. The very best. Jim Harold, everybody. And it's very simple, jimharold.com. The links are below. Of course, the Campfire, the Paranormal Podcast, all of that. He is absolutely the best of the best. Thank you, Jim. Happy Halloween, everybody. As you all know, you know what I'm about to say. Today is my Friday. Okay? It's your Thursday. It's my Friday. I want everybody to have a great, safe, fun, and amazing Halloween and weekend. And I will see you right back here on Monday. But for now, all I've got is Go Beckley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Beckley Tappy.